Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. If you hear any banging in the background, there's been construction going on for a while. I can't help it, but I'm hearing it every now and again. So just in case that you do, just know that it is something that's going to be there. Of course, as always, there's a lot to cover. The last, I want to say even 48 hours have been a gigantic roller coaster of kind of like everything that's been happening at the exact same time. For those of you who missed the grand news, the US SEC has officially, finally approved all 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs for listing and trading on US stock exchanges. Why I say 48 hours is because for those of you who missed it, you are very lucky. There was a situation 2 days ago where it was alleged or stated that the US SEC's Twitter page was hacked. Apparently, there are going to be investigations into this. I'm not even, I don't even think that's going to happen. The point is, they stated that their Twitter was hacked and that someone posted something that said that all the Bitcoin ETFs had been approved. And then that was swiftly removed 2 minutes later, and Gary Gensler and a bunch of other people were like, no, nothing has been approved. And it was a really weird form of what I still believe to be manipulation, because upon the news, the price of Bitcoin skyrocketed, directly up. And then when the no came from it, prices fell direct, straight line, red candle, all the way down. And then no more than 24 hours after that, everyone began to see that all these Bitcoin ETFs were being listed on the CBOE and other stock exchanges, like their ticker symbols. Remember that website I told you everything was appearing on there? And a lot of people were like, this is usually the final symbol that it has been approved. Those began to appear on other websites, and then somewhere around, I want to say 5 or 6 New York Times, somewhere around there, that's when an official statement was released, and then everything appeared on the SEC's website. But the problem was, at least in my eyes, is that a lot of the energy had kind of dissipated because no one knew what was real anymore. After the Twitter thing happened, a lot of people were very confused. I posted a video on Twitter, a little 2-minute video saying that the Bitcoin ETFs had been approved. And I don't know if people were just being cynical on purpose, maybe had nothing better to do, but a number of people were like, no, they're not approved. I looked around, I couldn't find anything. Stop spreading fake news, TMI, and all these other, more than a few people. No one, or rather the vast majority of people, did not believe the news. So everyone began to look around, and I also had to post links as well on Twitter showing people the actual link on the SEC website. There were a lot of people, for whatever reason, who didn't understand the difference, and there really isn't one, between ETFs and ETPs, exchange-traded funds and exchange-traded products. These are products that can also entail funds. So people began to look on the SEC's website and saw that Bitcoin ETPs had been approved, and they were like, it's not the same as an ETF, and you sit there and you're like, okay, but it was a very confusing, even last evening when all of this stuff was approved, all 11, there was just far too much confusion and no one really understood what was going on as far as any accuracy to the news. And for those of you who were also paying attention as this news was first released, people began to sell off their crypto. There was a really weird moment where Bitcoin's price began to fall down. And I was like, there's no way that people are selling the news. Apparently, a lot of people thought that would be the genius thing for them to do. And then about 15, 20 minutes later, Bitcoin was up by around 3 to 4%. It's been a lot the last 2 days. Remember how I've been telling all of you, you would and probably are already experiencing a lot of people you haven't heard from in years, people who were in the market before, who are now messaging you again to get information from you, to talk about all these things that are happening. I have so many friends who aren't even in the market, are not in the market, who've been messaging me and texting me and sending me screenshots of ETF approval. Oh no, not ETF approval. What's going to happen to the market? Why is Bitcoin down? And I'm like, you're not even in this market. This was so widespread. It was actually, I repeat once again, no one person should have that much power. This was basically, and more or less, we're going to get into that as well. This was basically more or less in the hands of Gary Gensler. And the fact that this one person had this much power over, it is estimated that we are over 100 million people in the market. And then also the people who were standing outside of the market who have no money in the game also messaging me. Like, it was a really weird moment to see that, like, this euphoric, weird kind of instance took place across the entirety of the planet with the anticipation of what is going to come next. The fact that the SEC was able to do this over the course of a decade is disgusting. Like, I can't find any other word right now that should be used there. But the fact that they had a stronghold on this industry for 10 years, and then to like, and I saw some people praising them as well. I know people do that to save face in the industry, to be like, well, good thing that the SEC, and it's like, no, these people are psychopaths. They had control over this market for 10 years. They talked about manipulation when it was constantly them who was manipulating the price. If we had Bitcoin ETFs around 10 years ago, they could have had proper structure around the entirety of the market, at least within the United States, to make sure that there was no wrongdoing, that there wasn't an FTX and all these other things, and to kind of have it now is like, it's all very slimy to me in many, many, many different ways. Bringing it on back, they approved all 11 spot ETFs. I saw people saying that apparently 12 or 13 had applied, but every time I saw a list, it was all the applicants, and then next to them it said like approved, and there were no other names that said not approved or nay next to it. So as far as I can tell, all of them have been approved. We heard before that maybe only 7 were going to be approved, and it looks, and I also mentioned this before, around the end of November. The weird thing about the cryptocurrency space is that our news usually ends up being true. It happens quite often. We get a rumor, someone says something is going to happen, or like this will take place, and then it ends up taking place. I don't know why it happens so frequently in the cryptocurrency. I hate using the word space again, but space. But definitely it's there. Like, we heard around the end of November that not only would they be approving all the ETFs, but like it would be multiple at the same time, as opposed to just like one on a Tuesday, one on a Wednesday, one on a Thursday. And we got all of them all at once. It says, in an historic move after years of anticipation and regulatory hurdles, none of which actually existed, over and over and over, the approved spot Bitcoin ETFs are expected to start trading today, Thursday, on the New York Stock Exchange ARCA, the NASDAQ, and the CBOE BZX exchange. The CBOE, I think the vast majority of them are going to be on the CBOE, if I'm not mistaken. That was the letters that kept on appearing over the course of the last even 12 hours. Like approval by CBOE, approval by CBOE, approval by CBOE as well. The US SEC announced Wednesday that it had approved 11 spot Bitcoin ETF applicants to be listed on different exchanges. The approved spot ETFs, and I'm not reading out all the names, it's basically every single company. It looks like at the moment, maybe the vast majority of people are probably going to be going to BlackRock's ETF. For those of you who missed the news also over the course of the last like 3 or 4 days, there was a really weird, like very last minute application process where these companies were amending their applications to basically lower their fees. In the very beginning, a lot of their fees were around like 1%. There's Grayscale. Grayscale, for some reason, has a 1.5% fee. 1.5% fee. Other companies had 0.8, 0.65. And then last evening or the night before, everyone was lowering their fees to 0.35, 0.25, 0.27 to be as the word's not strategic, but use mine as opposed to other people's. But I still believe Grayscale has 1.5%. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work out for them. The spot Bitcoin ETF applicants filed their final registration statements with the SEC this week. The filings revealed a fee war among users in the latest filing, which was posted on the SEC's website on Wednesday morning. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, slashed their fees to to 0.25 and to 0.12% for the first $5 billion, I guess, swirling around inside of their fund. Joining ARK Invest in 21 shares in a fee-cutting frenzy. It was really weird. Like there were so many last-minute amendments, and I'm pretty sure it's because everyone was listing at 0.8%, and there was one that had 0.35. So they were like, okay, that one. No one realistically, I don't know what's wrong with Grayscale. No one's going to be using something that has a 1.5% fee when they can do 0.25 with BlackRock. It just really doesn't make a lot of sense. Here's all the things right here, their fees and their ticker symbols. Grayscale still has 1.5. Hashdex has 0.9. Why? Valkyrie has 0.49. And then all the other ones around here have a 0% to like another fee as time goes on, if you will. Approved spot Bitcoin ETFs universally adhere to the cash creation model as it aligns with the SEC's preference. ARK Invest CEO Cathie Wood believes spot Bitcoin ETFs will boost the price of Bitcoin significantly. You should all know this by now. The idea is that we are going to finally have like hyper transparency as far as how much Bitcoin is being accumulated by these companies. The rumors that we got, which I believe were all true, like they weren't even like rumors, was that all these companies would be, the word is seeding their funds with an allocation of money so that there was liquidity already inside of it as things get going. And we heard there were a lot of companies listed right here who were going to be throwing in 20 million. Others were doing like 50 million. And I think one of them is doing $200 million that is going to be used to like get money moving into the fund so that other people who go into it and are exiting have a specific amount of liquidity within them. But as more people go into them and there's more interest, more Bitcoin will be bought, and we will be able to see exactly how much Bitcoin is bought based off of all these things. This is, I mean, it's really weird because I have so many mixed emotions. It's been a decade. Like when I was first looking at where I should start investing, what I should get into, I was looking at the cryptocurrency space, and I remember seeing when they were first doing their discussions for the bit license in New York, and I was like, whoa, this place is, this space is crazy, cryptocurrencies, all these other things. I got into the market about, I guess maybe 2 or 3 or something like that years later. It's taken that long just to get us to this point. Like we had, like ETFs aren't a brand new thing. Like we knew what the requirements were from the very beginning. And it's just been a lot of like back and forth just to get us to this moment. And we're here. How long, if you've been with this channel for a while, how long have we been talking about Bitcoin ETFs? It's been a very, very long time. And now we finally have them. I mean, they're going to start trading over the course of the next couple of hours, at least at the time of me making this video, but we will have a good indication of how much money is flowing into the market. We've already seen people buying up physical Bitcoin, air quotes, if you will, from crypto exchanges in anticipation of this money. Like the moment the bell rings, money flowing into all of these funds. So as you might have imagined, this was over the top news, and everyone had very mixed emotions because 2 days before, everyone was very euphoric, and then we got the news that no, it wasn't going to happen. So when we actually had proper approval, everyone was like, did it actually happen? What's going on? What should I be doing? Where should I be looking for things right now? Yeah, as it stands right now, it looks like everything is going to start trading. It says tomorrow. This is an article from last night. Everything will begin trading today. We will have a very clear indication of everything that's actually going on. In other news that, of course, relates directly to it, because over the last couple of weeks, the news has been a little weird. It's been like kind of all over the place as everyone was just anticipating this one event. It appears, the rumors are, that Grayscale might have actually played a gigantic part in the approval of the ETFs within the United States. Grayscale is a company who had a Bitcoin trust. It was basically a fund that allowed people to put money in, and they were allocated specific portions of something that said that they owned fractions of Bitcoin. The issue is that they wanted more legitimacy, and they said, we want to become an ETF. So they filed with the US SEC because their fund was literally an ETF without the letters ETF. They went to the SEC, tried to get approved. The SEC said no, and the people from Grayscale, thank goodness, were tired of the, excuse my French, were tired of the BS and went to court with the SEC. And the court ruled in Grayscale's favor. And they were like, why did you reject this? There was no right for you to actually reject this. So the news that we actually received like last night, over the last couple of hours, it looks like Grayscale's winning that court ruling might have actually changed the course of what the SEC was going to do, because basically, in all honesty, they did not want 11 more lawsuits against them. Like, can you imagine Grayscale? And Grayscale was not a major company before the entire Bitcoin thing was happening. Now imagine a lawsuit from Fidelity and BlackRock. Like, it's not going to work out in the SEC's favor at all. The chairman of the US SEC, Gary Gensler, gave a statement on the approval of all 11 spot Bitcoin ETF applicants. All the applications were approved on an accelerated basis, it says minutes ago, and all of them are expecting to begin trading tomorrow. Notably, in the statement, Gensler stated that, unlike previous rejections, there were some factors that resulted in the approval of all spot Bitcoin ETFs. A mention of the SEC versus Grayscale was made within the statement, hinting at the influence of the case on the approval decision. The statement read, and I do quote, "The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia held that the commission failed to adequately explain its reasoning in disapproving the listing and trading of Grayscale's proposed ETP based on these circumstances and those discussed more fully in the approval order. I feel the most suitable path forward is to approve the listing and trading of the spot Bitcoin ETP shares." They knew that they were wrong from the get-go. This is part of the problem. I don't understand why the SEC had been given so much power within the cryptocurrency space. And the only thing, like, this was their last thing that they could have done. The SEC, in essence, has no real power over Bitcoin, but the fact that the Bitcoin price moves based off of what Gary Gensler says is actually disgusting. So how do you make sure in a market that you have no control over, how do you get control? You allow for 11 spot Bitcoin ETFs to be approved because everything that happens with these funds has to go through the SEC. It's a really weird, like I said, it's a very weird moment. A lot of people were reading through Gary Gensler's statements and they were like, there was no real reason for them to disapprove Grayscale before. I still hold by my reasoning, as I said at the end of 2021. The entire reason why they were waiting from the get-go was for BlackRock and for Fidelity. I called it years ago. I literally said, there's something happening behind the scenes. There were far too many people, far too many hedge funds, far too many banks, far too many world powers who were all talking about Bitcoin going to 100K, 200K, $500,000 to $1 million. I was like, the SEC's waiting for the big boys to play. Can I substantiate this? No, absolutely not. I'm not rich enough or powerful enough to be in any of these conversations or any of these rooms. But it makes a lot of sense that the momentum picked up after the people from BlackRock were like, hey, we want this to happen. So of course they were going to get approved as well. This was also very big news. People, there are a lot of people who are very, 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 I mean, and rightfully so as well. Rightfully very angry with Gary Gensler. I saw when the approval happened, I saw a few people, like I said, who were kind of like kissing the ring and being like, oh, thank you, SEC, you have blah, blah. And I was like, okay, whatever. But everyone else is like, why do you wait for so long? Why do you make sure that the market had this much pain? Why did you make sure that there's some type of manipulation going on? Like that I can say with like without a shadow of a doubt, because that's how all markets are. But this one seems very particular. It's very fine-tuned comparative to a lot of the other ones that we've seen. We know that the big boys have been in the market for a very long time, but the lack of clarity across the board from the people who are supposed to be regulating has been egregious from the very beginning. But as it stands now, Gary Gensler gave multiple different statements. One of them said, it was something along the lines of, you heard this days ago, he was telling people, do not FOMO into the market, regardless of what ends up happening, which kind of, was like a wink for a lot of people to be like, okay, he's saying that because he's going to approve them. He said that this is not a thumbs up from him for Bitcoin. He still thinks it's volatile. He still thinks there's room for manipulation. But through his actions and the actions of the SEC, now Bitcoin can be more legitimate and more regulated. And it's like, please go sit somewhere. There's a couple politicians who are calling for his expulsion. I told you all before, usually that is a lot of like song and dance. They know that they won't be able to expel this man, especially after everything that he's been doing. It looks like, I'll say it this way, it looks like his term might be over at the end of this year. However, he will be, now don't be delusional, he will be replaced by someone who's just like him. That's how it always works out. You do not get nominated or put forth as the head of a regulatory body if you are planning on going easy. They are meant to scrutinize everything, but not over the course of a decade, which is corruption. But whoever he is replaced by, they will probably have a similar idea. They will be there to protect the strength of the US dollar. So don't assume that anyone who comes in after him is going to be this hero. Because don't forget, Gary Gensler also was a university professor who used to talk positively about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and how blockchain was going to change the world. And look at what we got. I still think a part of that also has to do with like saltiness. This is my opinion completely. For those of you who missed the article, maybe like a month or two ago, we got news that apparently the SEC was trying to hire a cryptocurrency expert and no one was applying at all. And they had been trying for some time. And when you read through it, apparently the issue was that anyone working for the SEC had to sell and relinquish basically any assets that they had that could be that could sway their potential emotions when it came to a judgment. Ergo, everyone working for the US SEC had to sell all of their Bitcoin and crypto at some point. And in the back of my mind, I would not be at all surprised if Gary Gensler's methodology had been the way that it was, because he had no crypto, he had no Bitcoin. So I assume seeing the price rise and you have none, you grow quite bitter. But that's also my take on things because it seems the most logical. Following the approval of the first spot Bitcoin ETF, Gary Gensler emphasized that this did not constitute his personal approval for Bitcoin. He cautioned investors to be careful due to the many risks associated with Bitcoin and other products related to cryptocurrencies. The statements of the SEC chair highlight the regulatory agency's stance on providing access to specified financial instruments related to Bitcoin, emphasizing blah, 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 blah. Kathy Wood, founder of ARK Investment Management, LLC, expressed astonishment at SEC Chair Gary Gensler's statements following the approval of the ETFs. In an interview on Twitter, Wood stated that Gensler's remarks criticized the entire cryptocurrency space and deemed it a typical reaction to disruptive innovation. She thinks that it's because crypto's so awesome, amazing, new and large that this is the point for Gary Gensler. No, it has to do, like, you have to really understand how strong the US dollar is. There's other articles in here. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to them. Other countries, like almost immediately after the US said yes, they kind of reiterated their no. Crypto's huge. I don't think a lot of people, I know that people understand what has taken place, but this is something that's going to change the face of the cryptocurrency market forever. This is like a gigantic stamp of legitimacy when it comes to financial markets. This is going to completely shape the way that Bitcoin grows, who gets into the market, how much money they have in the market. This securitized version of Bitcoin will be what allows investment funds, hedge funds, retirement funds. What's the other word? Anything that like allows people like social security funds and stuff like that to be able to invest in Bitcoin as well. They are able to, of course, acquire Bitcoin themselves. But in a world where you try to have less risk financially, usually what ends up happening is most companies, if not all of them, tend to go through another company so that if there should be a mix-up or mess-up, you blame the company who you got it from as opposed to yourself who acquired the Bitcoin in physical, by yourself form. I say physical, you know what I understand. I'm tired of people being like, Bitcoin's not physical. You know what I'm talking about. Like, stop acting. It's very frustrating. So this is like a gigantic turning point, and this is why I wrote on Twitter. I was like, anyone trying to sell the news right now is completely out of their mind. People were talking about it was priced, and I'm like, you really don't understand what's happening and what this means. Regardless of how many other places have already had Bitcoin ETFs, the inflows that we're going to see are absolutely massive. We will get proper numbers over the course of the next couple of weeks. But this is all happening at this time for a reason in 2024 before we have the halving. The accumulation that we've seen, we've gone over it tens of thousands of times. I don't have to do it again, but like, I think a lot of people really aren't understanding the strength that this is going to have on our market. And I hate to use the term legitimacy because we were already legit. But as far as how many more people are going to take us seriously now, because we have actual securitized products on these different websites, and how many more will be blossoming from them over the course of the next couple of years, and what it's going to do for prices and what it's going to do for accumulation. Like, we're not the only ones in the market. I've been trying to tell you that all before. Someone wrote on Twitter a couple days ago that I was acting as if like people can't buy fractions, and I'm like, no, you're not understanding. You're not. People keep conflating the idea of being able to buy Satoshis or being able to like that you can personally right now go to Coinbase to buy crypto with the fact that there's not a lot left. No one's paying attention to the actual numbers. No one's getting what's happening before their eyes. It's not that you won't be able to buy, is that you're going to be able to buy far less as the price completely escapes you. When we get to a $100,000 Bitcoin, raise your hand if you are going to be able to relinquish 100,000 US dollars to buy an entire Bitcoin. The number is going to be very low as to who can actually do that. When it hits 250,000, yeah, sure, you can still buy your, 850 Satoshis every couple of weeks. But the fact is, like, this market was made for us 15 years ago. And a lot of the people who were in this market early weren't paying attention. And now that the big boys are here, that they're like actually here. They're not playing. This isn't something so they can be like, oh, this sounds kind of fun. The word Bitcoin, if you say it, enough times, it sounds weird. No, like they're here to make trillions of dollars. That's why all the fee cutting was happening, because they know that there's billions. Remember all the money we were talking about waiting on this on the sidelines? This is it. This is the moment that we've been talking about. I think it just seems very abstract to a lot of people if we keep mentioning things over and over and over, especially a lot of times when I mention that like there's not a lot of Bitcoin left. People don't get it until it's the actual moment, and everyone starts panicking and like, why didn't prices stay lower longer? No, you've had a very long time to do it. And now with all these people entering the market legally in a couple of hours, it is going to be absolute madness for the cryptocurrency market. And this is what I think a lot of people aren't getting. But alas, over the last couple of years, whether it be here or in physical form, I've tried helping friends, family, all of you to really get you to understand exactly what's going on. But not everyone will be able to make it to the finish line. That's just the way that things are. There are a lot of people who are going to be very cynical, think that nothing will happen. Bitcoin will get to 85,000. They'll think that it's going to drop again. Bitcoin goes to 128,000. It's going to fall. And it's like, you're not getting it. These ETFs will be around for a very long time. There will be more ETFs. In 30 years, people will be looking back at this moment and being like, do you see how low Bitcoin's price was? Well, now we have a, $1.8 million Bitcoin. Like it's all moving in this direction. Bitcoin is now officially legitimate. This is what we were waiting for. This is the exact moment that we were waiting for. Bitcoin is no longer this like speculative who, if, what, could, ever, maybe. It is written in stone now that Bitcoin is legitimate. This was the moment that we waited for. And a lot of people aren't paying attention. And the shame is, it's people within the space who aren't paying attention. But that's also, it's not my money. So completely good luck to them. Also in like really like everyone needs to calm down news. It's the same exact thing all over again. Robinhood and its CEO, Vladimir Tenev, apparently stated that with the approval of all the 11 spot ETFs by the US SEC, that they are going to probably be listing it on Robinhood as well. It must be, because I'm not in the States. Like I can't conceptualize how this one app is so popular that everyone completely goes insane over just this kind of news. Basically, in a completely expected turn of events, Robinhood is going to try and make more money. What? That's crazy, right? So what they're going to be doing is over the course of the next couple of weeks, they have not given a time frame and or a date. They're definitely going to be listing these ETFs on their platform. I think I pretty much summed up the entirety of the. Meanwhile, the CEO has confirmed Robinhood's commitment to providing early access to cryptocurrencies and expressed its intentions by swiftly listing ETFs on their platform. The move is aligned with Robinhood's philosophy of empowering users. Don't give me that crap. They're trying to make money. I'm so tired of these companies always being like, we're trying to help people. No, you're not. There's a reason why you have fees. If you didn't have fees and it was $0 to do all these things, then you're actually trying to empower people. But you have fees so that you make sure that you also make money as well on top of it. Just say that you're trying to make money. You're making it a little bit easier for a lot of people who are already using your app and don't want to go to another app to buy cryptocurrencies. So I'm pretty sure, I am nearly certain that you can already buy crypto on Robinhood. So I think the idea of people being like, oh no, I want shares in an ETF instead is fantastic. I don't really know. At least mentally. I think I've been in the cryptocurrency space for so long that anything outside of it financially usually seems quite dumbed down in a way. It's like you want to be able to, you want to buy oranges really bad. You want oranges in your portfolio, but you have to wait until someone makes orange juice and then they pour you a cup and you're like, oh my gosh, I finally got some. And it's like, you could have done that yourself. You could have walked across the street to the store, got the oranges and squeezed them. It might have been a bit more difficult, but alas, so cool. Robinhood is going to be listing ETFs on their platform whenever they get the chance to. I assume it's going to be monstrously popular news, as well as a lot of people have been talking about. Anything Robinhood ends up being completely popular as well. Yeah. Also, the prices at the moment, for those of you not looking at the screen, look pretty good. Bitcoin is, and I say this with strength, is only at $47,000. It is up by 3.54%. I'm interested to see exactly what happens as the market opens and the trading begins. It'll probably take realistically a good 8 to 12 hours to see what the volume of the ETFs are to get people kind of revved up. For whatever reason under the sun, altcoins are doing excessively well comparative to Bitcoin, as we've gone over before. Bitcoin goes up by 3-4%. Altcoins go up by 12, 13, 14% at the exact same time. Ethereum is currently up by 10%. It is at 2,600. It's very nice to see. There are a lot of calls for a $3,000 to a $3,500 Ether. A lot of people are predicting that. Remember the numbers that we were getting, that by the time we have the halving, people are projecting, for those of you who missed it, by the time we get to the halving, people are projecting a $100,000 Bitcoin. You heard that correctly. That we would then have between a 5,000 to 7,000 Ether at the exact same time. A lot of people are very, very bullish on Ether at the moment. Binance coin is up by 5. There's never really any Binance coin news again since the entire Changpeng Zhao fiasco, so I just assume it's moving up with the other coins. XRP is up by 8% as well. I wasn't really, to be honest, expecting an XRP pump in price, but every other coin is doing the same. Many stable coins are in red, or you kind of see them going down, and that's because they're being sold off as people are buying up other altcoins as well. Cardano is up by 17%. 17%. And there was no news of a Cardano ETF or anything otherwise. This is simply based off of the momentum of Bitcoin going up by 3%. The altcoins are also very optimistic as well. Avalanche is up by 13%. Dogecoin is up by 8%. Altcoins are doing extremely well. Chainlink is up by 8%. Polkadot is up by 19%. Polygon Matic is up by 13%. Shiba Inu is up by 9%. Litecoin is up by 8%. Ethereum Classic in a what the fudge moment is up by 47%. Hopefully this gets into your head what we've been talking about for a while. If this is your first, what do you call it? If this is your first rodeo, your first bull run, this is what always happens. You are going to wake up many days, see that Bitcoin is up by 2 or 3%, and every other coin is skyrocketing as well, whether it makes sense or not. There was no Ethereum Classic news. There was nothing really explicitly about Ethereum. But alas, here we are. Near Protocol is up by 14. Stellar Lumens, as it always follows, XRP is also up by 8%. Filecoin is up by 14. Immutable X is up by 15%. Arbitrum is up by 18% as well. Celestia is up by 13. Mantle, sure, never heard of it, is up by 25%. And don't leave a comment that I don't know what Mantle is. Do you know what Mantle is? Like, stop telling me these like ridiculous coins as if I'm supposed to know what every single coin is as well. Something called SEI, SEI, or is it C? Who knows? Is up by 20%. The Graph is up by 14% as well. And Algorand is back in the top 50 and is up by 9.5%. It is going to be a very interesting day as the markets open, and it is going to get even more intense over the course of this and next week. I'm sure that the news is going to be flooded with nothing but ETF movement price. Like, we made it. This is what we've been talking about for years, and I hope everyone really relishes in the fact that we have made it, regardless of the fact that we had to wait for Gary Gensler to give us the yay. But this was kind of it. This was the last thing that we've been waiting for. We were waiting for Taproot and Schnorr a number of years ago. We were waiting for the other Bitcoin forks and stuff like that. We were waiting for proof of stake. This was the last major thing that the cryptocurrency market was waiting for. And now it's basically up to the world to see if all the fireworks actually happen. Do we get to a $100,000 Bitcoin by the time the halving happens in, was that February, March, April? Was that 2.5, 3 months or something like that? Gigantic question mark in the sky. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.